Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream, and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy, edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, then the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it faster. Hi! I'm sorry, I was taking a bit there. You guys, I have so much stuff I'm trying to coordinate for today's video, but I'm so excited about it. It's gonna be so much fun. I didn't test my microphones, so tell me if everything looks and sounds okay. Hi, Dar. Hi, Malin. Thanks. Yeah, I got 10,000 subscribers last night, or by this morning I woke up to it. So that's pretty cool. In fact, I haven't looked at my dashboard to see if it gave me like confetti or something. So, hi, Beverly. Hi, Eliza. Hello, Holly. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Terry. How's it going? All right. So, hopefully I look and sound okay. Like, I didn't even fiddle with anything. So, hi, Yvonne. Welcome. Hello. Oh my gosh. Hannah. Oh my gosh. Thanks. Okay, good. Thanks, Terry, for telling me that. We're doing a 10K. Yeah. Yeah, so that's really exciting. Nothing really happens special except that I have a, fond sense of achievement. Yes, Libby. Did you text all your friends? I saw your Instagram comment. It was really kind. Hearts Fabric, who has sent us so many really great projects. Hi, Carol. Sent out a newsletter yesterday and wished us a happy 3-year anniversary. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That was like over and above. They don't need to do that. So it feels really good when folks like that out in the world really get what we're doing here. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna check my followers. I never look at this. You guys are always the ones that tell me about these milestones. But this one I've been paying attention to because I'm like, it would be really bad if I kind of missed this one. So I've been looking at it. So yeah. All right. So if you're 4 or 5, that was what I needed. If you're new here, and I see a couple of new names here, and someone said they're new, welcome. So here's how live streams work as far as how I do it. You are welcome to ask questions, make suggestions, challenge me, whatever you want. and I will hopefully be able to answer your question or demonstrate it or whatever. Hi, Louise. And if you want to chat with us and you are new here and you've never chatted with in a live stream, we really love it when you do, because it's a really safe place. Everyone's extremely welcoming of all sewing abilities, and you're absolutely welcome to be here. And if you want to chat and you can't figure out how, like it's not letting you, you probably have to log into YouTube or create a channel, and then you'll have an account and you can chat. It does help if you like videos. It doesn't really help with YouTube's algorithm. What helps with YouTube's algorithm is viewing and commenting. Those are the engagement. Likes are really great because it shows other people, hey, other people approve of this video. You know what I mean? So, you know, dislikes do too, actually. You know, we've all not wanted to waste our time on a video that told us it would tell us something different, right? So today's stream is a little unique. I've never done this kind of stream. Usually what we do is we cut out a project on a Wednesday, we sew part 1 on Thursday, and we sew part 2 on Saturday. I'm all keyed up right now, so I'm trying to catch my breath. Thanks, Louise. Hi, Emily. And I finished my project this week. This month I've been doing kind of really offbeat things. Like the first week wasn't very offbeat. We did the pants for Decades of Style, and she had sent me that pattern to test, so I did that. 100K, oh my, I can't even imagine. I have something to say about that with some of these videos you guys sent me though. And then I refashioned a ton of stuff because transparency, right? I have sewing makes that I don't wear, or things happen to, or, you know, I've gained a little bit of weight, or they don't fit right. And so I spent a week kind of going through my dirty laundry, so to speak, and kind of addressing some of my concerns with a lot of those garments. And that felt really good. And then this week I took a bunch of my fabric scraps and I made them into mulch mats, for my garden, which I know is a little quirky, but you know what? I'm thrilled with it and I don't really care. They look fine out there to me. Like, they look normal to me. Maybe I'm just too eccentric to notice that they're off kilter, but they're not. I'm thrilled with it, and my husband is really he's checking out how one of those retains water because he waters it every day. So next week we're sewing a project for Hearts Fabric. They sent us the Scirocco jumpsuit by Deer and Doe Patterns. They love Deer and Doe, and they turned me on to Deer and Doe, and I really like their patterns too. Some of their patterns are more size inclusive than others. They're not all going that far, you know, but they I think they're working on it. So, and their patterns are typically available more sizes in PDF format than print. So they sent us fabric and that pattern. We're going to send that sew that next week. Today was a free day. I thought I'd be doing the mulch mats today, and so Noemi on Instagram, or she's in the chat sometimes, I don't know what her Instagram handle is, she sent me this YouTube link. DMs. I have to tell you guys, my DMs on Instagram, I am this tiny little person, and I can't imagine if you were someone really actually popular and you had that, because I'm already managing comments on my YouTube channel, on Instagram, a little bit on Facebook, and then email, right? So I'm managing 4 different fronts already. And so sometimes I get Instagram DMs and I'm like, what's this gonna be? Because sometimes people will be like, can you tell me how to do this? And I'm like, no, it's 9:30 at night. I'm playing a video game. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. So, you know, but she sent me this video, and it was sewing tips and hacks on using a straw. And at first I was like, oh, no. And then I watched it. I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I'm going to have to try this. I said, you know, wouldn't it be funny if I had you guys send me links to tips and hacks, sewing videos you watched, or you're just like, I'm too nervous to try this, or maybe I want to see you try it first, or see what you think of it. And you guys did. You guys sent me kind of a bunch of videos. Yeah, I would turn off my DMs at a certain point, Louise. That's how I am. If this is where my platform is on YouTube, I want to engage with people on YouTube. But I know that like keeping up those other areas are really important too. So, oh, awesome, Jay Riley. That's nice to hear. Hi, Martina. Because I sometimes wonder if people are like, how annoying you're putting this post on Instagram and you're luring us away from Instagram to YouTube. But it does help because I think time just kind of slips by, you know. And if you're interested in the topic, you can pop over and check it out. So thanks for letting me know that. I stopped for like 2 weeks and then I was like, nah, I'm just going to do this. I deleted afterwards. So don't ever comment on those. I delete them. So you guys sent me all kinds of videos. And I created a playlist of all of the videos you guys sent me links to. I included all of them, and I linked it in the description of this video. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I made it a private. You just have to have the link. Let's see. Let's see if this works. I'm going to click this. I actually watch chat on YouTube just like you are. People wonder that, and I do. Okay, so that works. I don't know if it's because I'm logged in or not, but so you can go back and watch all these videos and see it firsthand what I saw. All right, and so some of them I watched all of them and I checked them out, and some of them I have seen before. Some of them I was like, that's crazy. And oh, okay, good, Jay Riley. Yeah, it's always Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday at 11 a.m. But I know that's kind of, if you're not in my time zone, you're converting, and then you're like, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, why is that? It just kind of has evolved that way. And I would love to accommodate everybody, but at the same time, it's just hard. So I just can't keep it that way. Sometimes you'll see me do like an afternoon stream, and then I'll see a bunch of the like folks that are like, oh, this is great because I work during the day, or oh, I'm in New Zealand or Australia. So all right. So, okay. So you saw in my cover photo that there's a fork involved. There's also a soda can involved today that I've already cut apart because I was really nervous about cutting that in front of you guys. Foil. I had to go buy Starch. I am the worst sewist in the world. I have never owned Starch in my life. I looked for their travel section. Travel sections aren't a thing right now because of the pandemic, I think. So I don't know where it was. I thought I could find like a little tiny one, but I couldn't. So here I am with this huge bottle of Starch. Let's see, what else do I have here? I have a straw. This is the only plastic straw I could find. And there's some background on that, and that's because my husband works for a really big company that does stainless steel water bottles, and so one of their missions is ending single-use plastic when it's not a necessary thing. So having a straw in my house is a quite illegal item. I had to find this. This is someone's used straw from this office, but it probably wasn't used for 3 years because, like I said, that when the fire happened in this area, it's like this office is like a time capsule of really weird things. And you could tell like there's like leftover Halloween candy in someone's office. It's so bizarre. The drawers are all cleaned out, you know, but there's like weird things. There's this drawer of Christmas CDs because it was November 8th. So I just started, Janice. Yeah. Oh, really, Beverly? That's so awesome. Hi, Nancy. How's it going? Yeah, there are some OGs here in the chat for sure. You guys have been here for 3 years. Next week is my 3-year anniversary. Hi, Sydney. How's it going? There's a lot of folks here today. Okay, so yeah, so I have this really weird assortment. The fork thing was kind of hard too because I'll admit I have all these forks. These are all the random forks. Well, these are from my old office when I used to have employees and stuff. I had a set of forks. It was really hard to find a fork for one of these because it needed to be a certain thickness and spacing, and she recommended a 3-tine fork. I have some vinyl in here. Someone requested, I think it was Beverly, requested some tips on matching prints or pocket and print, and so I've got some fabric cut out for you. And it's interesting because my method when I'm really being anal, and I'm not very anal, you'll learn that when I'm sewing, I'm pretty cavalier and I'm pretty quick. So you can always sew things better than me. It's definite. I am not above admitting that at all. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are like, wow, I could do that better. You probably could. but you're also not managing a chat, a live stream, 3 cameras, and your sewing machine. And I am of the philosophy, in the most, you know, mostly of done is better than perfect. So I don't have a safety pin. I don't have a safety. Hi, Megan. How's it going? I don't think I need one today. Oh my gosh, you're making me panic. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I need one other thing. For the thing I'm most excited about that involves this soda can, I need some double stick tape. Okay, wait, I have to look at my toolbox, you guys, just a second, sorry. Pretty sure I have some here. Please tell me I have some. Carpet tape. Okay, if I have to walk over here, I might fall for the first time ever when I'm live. Okay, carpet tape. All right, so we have a lot of things to get through. I sort of wrote a list so that I wouldn't forget. I don't need this. This is one thing I don't need. So because of the straw thing, for those of you who are straw challenged like me, I'm gonna try our silicone toppers for these straws here. This is on backwards, I think. This one is a bigger diameter. There's even boba tea straws, you know, so that the tapioca pearls can go up. We only have one of these larger straws, and my husband uses it for smoothies. So hi Susu, how's it going? So this is like a regular old straw. And I brought these as backup because this one's kind of old, and when I started to just try and see if it would fit, because you have to put it over your presser fit, it felt a little like it's kind of lost its charm. You know, it's a elastic sparkle, like, you know, as if they were designing straws to do that from get-go, but they weren't. All right. Okay, so I really have spent a lot of time preparing for this, but it is going to be a little bit clunky, I think, today, because there's so many really weird things to manage. All right, let's get my list out. Straw challenged. I am straw challenged. Yes, right, Nancy? It was a scavenger hunt. I was at Rite Aid yesterday, walking around, and then I was getting distracted looking at things, and I bought a duck planter that was half off. I was like, all right, this trip to get Starch, a travel size Starch, is getting expensive. I bought a foundation for my skin because I do use one because my rosacea has been so bad this year, and it was running out, and I thought I'd try one. I tried that this morning, but that was a fiasco. I really don't know much about makeup. So yeah, and then I just finally found the Starch, and it's this gigantic bottle. All my quilter friends are just cringing right now because they all have these really fancy starches that they get for quilting, and they sew like everything starched. And I've been in their sewing studio when they're using it, and I just I don't know the first thing about it. So, okay, so let's see. I just jotted all these down. So I'm not going to do every trick in every video because some of them I feel like you've seen before, and I felt like they weren't really tricks at all. I'm going to get my shorthand notes here. So for the Evelyn Wood video, and all these are linked in a playlist in the description, so that I was really concerned about copyright infringement. I'm not trying to steal anybody's videos or ideas. You've never either, Malin? Wow, you're the only other person I know like that, so that's great. And even at one point, I'm going to share a screenshot from one because I realized I wore a dress and not pants to do one of these. Yeah, because that's a thing in today's video. Like, I needed to wear pants to show you a sewing tip. Oh, with the jelly roll. See, quilting. All right, so Evelyn Wood, she had a few. She had one with using beeswax to put it on your thread to make hand sewing less tangly. I saw that a couple times. So I'll just mention a couple of these. I don't have beeswax. She talked about ease and patterns. I thought that wasn't really a tip or a hack at all. And I want to also say that I saw some people comment that they didn't like the word hack, sewing hack used when it's a tip. I kind of agree with them because I feel like the straw is a sewing hack, right? But using starch on fabric to keep it from rolling, that's a tip, right? So, what? Nancy, what? That's pretty funny, Nancy. Okay. She also had one where for marking hand sewing stitches, so say you're hand sewing, I've done this, so knitters have all kinds of really handy things when they're measuring their knitting, and they are, I literally just don't have thread here, like besides, okay, fine. Oh, I have bobbins. So she suggested when you're hand sewing, I can't wait to get to a couple of these. So I'm just gonna, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna go through it. Let's just put some fabric here. So say you're doing your stitches. Oh, I didn't practice this, so I'm not sure it will be helpful. Let's see, wait, I'm gonna, if I had beeswax, right, this would be a lot easier. This is how the Hmong women taught me to hand sew. That you put both. This isn't part of it. I'm just telling you this. And then you have your loop down here. And then when you start, so I'm just going to make this a tip of mine. Do a slip knot like this, you know. This isn't really set up for hand sewing, but that is one way. And then you don't have a knot at the end there. So say you're stitching two things together and you're trying to, how she had such a good example. You want to get your stitches evenly spaced. What she recommends is putting the spacing on your thumb exactly how you want it. And then you can hold it up and make sure that you're getting your stitches, you know, the right spacing, like that. I mean, I'm obviously not sewing perfectly right now, but so then you can hold up your thumb. And someone said, oh, great, a reason to get a tattoo there. So I wanted to mention that because there is knitters who do that. They have full tape measures or just lines marked on their skin because they're doing socks a lot and they want to measure the length of the ribbing or the length of, they just have knit so many socks. They're like, I know I want this always 6 inches. And so, or maybe it's like, oh, knit in the round for 6 inches and then they can just hold it up to their arm rather than getting a ruler out. All right. Yeah, she's making a joke, Sue, I'm pretty sure. Potato starch. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She just drinks the vodka so she can't tell her stuff's iron anymore. So my hand sewing's terrible, but this is the point, is that you can kind of, maybe you'd get good at where you want to mark your thumb, you know? And not in the crease, obviously. Now I have to deal with this for the rest of the stream, huh? So then you can mark your stitches. Yeah, right, Nancy? Exactly. Yeah, so, all right. You know how I feel about hand sewing, so that ain't happening for me. All right. She also talked about block fusing, and which means, like, say you have lots of small pieces that you need fusible interfacing. Rather than cutting out the piece for the interfacing for that piece, take the entire piece of interfacing, lay all your pieces down and iron them on, or iron a piece of fabric onto your interfacing. So you have a big piece, a block of fused fabric, and then cut out your pieces already fused. And that can be a little less fiddly. So what if you use a what? Thank you, Martina. Do you really, Nancy? I've never made vodka. I've made gin. I love that. So, but you don't use starch like this, right? What's in starch? Water. No, you're not drinking this. And anybody watching that, don't make vodka from spray starch. That's not what she's saying. I'm not getting in trouble for that. Wait, Louise. What did Louise say? From boiling. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know how you'd spray that on. I think you can make homemade starch. Oh, okay. Thank you for finally explaining, Nancy, what you're talking about. You mix potato vodka with water in a spray bottle, and that makes starch. Really? Oh, very cool. Potato starch. But what constitutes potato starch, and what's the right ratio? Yeah, so smart, Sydney. You fused yours? Yeah. Yeah, plus it makes it a little less fiddly. And just, you can mindlessly interface, or iron on interface a lot. 1 part vodka, 2 parts water spray. There you go. We even learned today how to make spray starch. Where were you guys yesterday when I was trolling the aisles of Rite Aid? All right. Okay, so bringing us to the starch, her tip, and I think all of you have known this, some of you guys have suggested it, is to starch your knits before you cut them so that they don't roll. I'm trying to find a piece that wants to roll. So let's see, I've never even opened this. So then you can spray your edges. I don't think this one I could unroll it, but maybe. Ooh, that is wet. And then it'll prevent your knits from rolling. So let's check on this in a little bit. Ooh, that is some tacky stuff. I'm gonna get. Usually rolling occurs on like non-double knits, and it'll roll towards the right side. That's how you sometimes know on solids what's the right and the wrong side, is if it rolls towards one side. For making, you guys have all kinds of starch info. We're gonna check on this later. I'm sure that'll work, but it doesn't look like it's working quite yet. All right, what are her other things? Okay, that's all of Evelyn's. So, all right, so Thoughtful Creativity video had using 2 writing utensils, and you could, I'm hoping I have my rubber band here. If you don't have a rubber band, oh yeah, I do. So say you want to add seam allowance to something, and maybe you don't have a ruler, or maybe you just don't really want to use the ruler. You can take 2 utensils, 2 writing utensils, no matter what they are. Make sure that they are flush on the ground, like flush down here where they're going to write, and then you can line it up with the edge of your pattern piece while you're tracing it out, and you'll get parallel lines. Let's brighten that up a bit. Yeah, it rolls to the right side. Okay. Let's just darken that a little bit. Yeah, so say this is your pattern piece right here. Here we go. We'll use this right here. This is our pattern piece right here. And you're tracing your pattern piece, and you need, say you're using a pattern that doesn't have seam allowances built in, or maybe you just want to add a little bit to the size, and so you want to trace it out a little bit bigger. You can just line up your pin along the pattern. Now, I'm making this look really easy right now. I just want to note that because this is cardstock. So if you were using, you know, say tissue paper, I think it would be a little bit more challenging. Let's pretend like one of these bags that I'm trying to, because I feel like this is a little bit more like tissue paper. So you may have to, yeah, it does, it pushes away. So you'd probably want to hold it steadier than I am, you know? But then you get a nice parallel line, and you can play around with different writing utensils because you're gonna get different widths. Like say if you used a pencil, And this pen, you know, see if I can get it. Yeah, look at that. It's much more narrow. So you could probably find the one that works for you. So that's one little tip. I use a see-through ruler, so, you know, I don't have a problem with that. And then press it with the iron. That helps with the curling. So I need to iron it. Okay. Maybe I should fire up the iron. Thank you, thank you. Let me try that. Okay, so I'm sorry that I've never used starch before. I can still see it on there, but it does wash away, which is a really nice thing. And I'll give you another tip with curling is often what I do is I will run the edge through the serger and I put the wrong side face up, and then that way it pulls less to that side. It helps a little bit. I did it on a lot of my, these samples here. Oh, these don't have it though. Oh, here we go. So here, I've been doing samples and trying out different techniques with knits. And so you can see that this edge right here wants to roll. And like this one I think may have had a bend in it, but you can see on this one here, I put it, this is the side that is facing up on my machine. And when I put it through, it pulls it to this side a little bit, so it corrects a little bit of the rolling. Okay. All right, so we'll iron this and then check on it. I imagine if you spray starched it and did the serger trick. The thing with the serger, the bad thing is how wide that stitch can be, and you may not need a stitch that wide. All right. Hi, Shadon. How's it going? Because it's not warm enough. I need to use steam. Don't use steam. Oh, well, good thing. I thought you were saying why there was no steam in my iron. Oh, it will spot your dark fabric. Oh, well, that'll be a good experiment then on that particular one because it's darker. All right, so let's see, where are we at? All right, we can move our starch too. Now I have starch for a lifetime. Oh, maybe it dilutes the starch. Good point. Good point. Okay. The other, oh, okay, this kind of gets to matching some pattern pieces. So this is still on the thoughtful creativity video. Oh my God. There's so much stuff over here. All right. You guys have requested me a few times on matching plaids and things like that, and I sort of do it unconsciously when I'm cutting out a pattern, and I do kind of the obvious things of just lining up one side seam to the other and then cutting it out and kind of lining it up that way. But what if you are sewing a pocket and that pocket's kind of in the middle of your garment? So I haven't done this in a while, so it might be a little clunky, but so there's a few different things you can do. It depends on how precise you really want to be. One way to do it, oh, this is for the bias binding trick. One way to do it is to photocopy your plaid, right? And what you can do is once you find, okay, so say that I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to mark this. So say we have our pocket markings are right here. All right. You did! Good for you, Sharon. I don't know anything about that sewing machine, but wow, congratulations on a new toy. Very, very cool. That's very cool. All right, so let's say we have our pattern piece. I guess I just could not prepare enough for this today. I don't have a big enough piece of paper here. Oh, I almost tripped on all that stuff. Told you guys I might do that. Okay. I'm going to make a pocket pattern, all right? So here's our, I don't need my scissors. Here's our pocket pattern, all right? And now I want to cut this out so that it matches my plaid perfectly. And so one way you could do it is you can take your pattern piece, lay your, if you take a photocopy of the plaid, and this is really going to be best on fabrics where the plaid repeat is pretty small. And if you have a larger one, then you may want to just photocopy the piece that you're trying to match. So just put it on your printer. I'm going to give you a non-copy way to do this as well. But then you can kind of line up this plaid on here, right? Let's see. We'll line it up. We're kind of looking at the sides, doing our best here. It looks like my copy machine probably reduces the plaid a little bit. Some copy machines do that. You gotta be careful. I'm just trying to find a spot. I really just slapped it on there and took a photo of it. So we'll do that, right? And then we can kind of fold this back and look, okay, there's our markings, right? And then let's put our pattern piece on here. And we'll say that our pattern piece has a, you know, has these notches up here, right? Oh, the heck. Let's put them pretty even, okay? Here's our notches. So this is where the pocket turns back at the top, right? And so we're going to line that up with the, oh wait, let's get my plaid on here. Get my piece of paper on here. Fold this back so you can see that, right? And then we'll put our pocket notches here to line up with that right there. And then we can kind of trace this on here. This piece of paper. Love doing stuff on the fly. It looks so graceful, doesn't it? And then you can kind of cut out your pocket now. Use this as your pattern piece, lay it on your plaid fabric to, sorry, I just got a weird text. I need to turn it. Then you can use this as your pattern piece for your pocket and lay this on your plaid fabric. So in the garment industry, how they would do this is they would have their pattern piece. How can I best illustrate this? Let's say that this is the piece of fabric that's been cut out. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll actually tape scraps of the fabric to the pattern piece. Or you can do things like this. This is like the easiest thing to do is go, okay, this is where my pocket needs to line up. This is your actual pattern piece. And we know that these notches here line up to these drills. You need to center it this way because you need that hangover part to be hemmed under, right? So that's your pattern piece. And you can just draw on your plaid. You can just go, okay, let's just draw this on here. Do it with a pencil if you don't want to mark your pattern permanently. I'd use a longer ruler so it was a perfect line across. And same here, you know, just draw your plaid on there. You know, make sure you understand exactly where your plaid is. You just need a little bit of it drawn on there to remind yourself. And then you can take this pattern piece, line it up on your plaid and go, all right, this is where I cut out this piece of the fabric. That's the faster way to do it. That's one way to do it. All right, and then if you're going to really get into being precise, this is in the Thoughtful Creativity video, and I do this a lot, especially with patterns like if I was doing something that's repeating. So at Chicken Boots, we had a lot of products that had the cute motifs on them and stuff. And so sometimes if they were pretty hard to kind of center or pinpoint, or maybe if we cut a part of that motif off, it made it a really awkward looking creature, or something like that. Or say we were just really trying to make it look seamless, then I would draw the pattern piece onto plastic. And then I would have that and I would go, oh, okay. And so I actually have one pattern where what I did was this. It depends on what extremes you want to go to. When you're doing, hundreds, you're going to go to some more extremes than if you're doing one. If you're entering something into the fair, you're going to do more extremes than one. I would definitely say cut out all your pieces individually. Don't cut them out folded or 2 layers at a time, because you will not get that. You'll spend so much time trying to get that bottom layer lined up with the top layer. You could have just cut the pieces out individually. So then what I would do is take a piece of vinyl and just tape it on the back side of my pattern piece. I use cardstock for all my pattern drafting. I don't have tape here, so we'll just pretend that it's taped, right? I did this for that quilt that's sitting on the chair behind me too. The Tell Me a Story quilt, because that one is very motif heavy, and the whole point of that quilt is to pick a motif, and then you're supposed to tell a story around each little image that you created, you're selected for that square. And so then I would just take this and go, all right, where do I want that? And then I would have my center absolutely marked on the pattern piece, right? And my seam allowance potentially, it just depends. Like, you can do whatever you want, right? And then I can kind of go, okay, maybe I want this plaid right there. Now, if you're going to do the center thing, I just oversimplified that. Remember, this is actually not the true center of this pattern piece, because there is a, like an 1.25 inch turn down up here, right? And only a 1/2 inch turn down here, right? So that would be the true, finding the distance between those two finished locations would be your actual center. Yeah, so that would be another way to do it. Trying to think, I feel like I have one more way to show you how to match plaids when it's like a floating pattern piece in the middle. But yeah, if it's a shirt, and I really know how to go through paper and fabric, don't I? If you've got like a shirt and you're doing your side seams and things like that, you have, we'll just pretend like this is your pattern piece, right? Oh my God. Right, so here's your little pattern piece. Oh my God, you can't see that. Here we go. So if this was your armhole and your side seam there, when I'm cutting things like this out, I always focus on where the center is going to be, right? Do I want to center my center front? If this was on the fold, do I want it to be the center of this plaid? Maybe the center of this window pane square here. And then the other place I think about is where it hits the armhole to make it easier for myself to cut out the other side. This is if your fabric, you have enough, you can kind of move things around a little bit. If you're tighter on fabric, you may just have to let the chips fall where they may as far as where this is going to be. I wouldn't compromise on your center here. You also want to think about where things hit your neckline, because if you put your neck center point right here on this plaid, you're going to have to sew that so well and cut that so well, because this is going to really highlight if it's wobbly or crooked, you know? So I kind of try and make it a little easier on myself, be kind to your future self, right? And kind of get it away from that. But I also look at what would be easy to match up here. So when I go to cut my other one, and sometimes I'll cut out one side and then flip my piece over and then cut out the other side, you know, stuff like that. I think you can spoon feed this to yourself as much or as little as you want. And then when you get to your shoulder seams, I don't worry about shoulder seams as much. Those usually, if you've matched the other spots, they will in general match. There are patterns that aren't drafted properly in the shoulder area that may give you a little bit of challenge there. But the shoulder seams aren't really what people are looking at when you're matching. It's usually the placket. If you're having trouble matching your placket, or say you have a one-way plaid. I don't have a one-way plaid sitting here, but a one-way plaid means it looks different going one way as it does the other. This is a one-way plaid, but you can't see it. So in other words, like say every other row was wider, and then going this way, you know, every second row was wide and every fourth row was really, or column was really skinny. Those are really hard to match. Yes, oh, so true, Beverly. Those are really hard to match, and if you run into a pickle and you actually thought of everything when you cut out your left and your right front, we'll talk about that since it's the most, like, you know, that's what everyone's looking at. Because I've done that before. I'm like, why does this look like it's not matching? Like this matches, that matches, that matches, that matches, but it's not matching. So sometimes those one-way plaids can be such a pain, and maybe you don't have enough fabric to figure that out. If it's a button open placket, or like a opening, what you can do is put the placket on the bias so that the plaid is like this. And it'll kind of masquerade the fact that maybe your plaids didn't match going this way. They're matching at the side seams, they're matching at the shoulders, but they're not matching at the center fronts, even though, like, why aren't they? Like, that's the same line. I'm telling you, one-way plaids are kind of a mystery that way. And then once you start looking at it, you can't unsee it. You'll start seeing it and you'll kind of go, oh, okay, now I see what was happening there. So there's ways to kind of masquerade that by like making your placket bias, putting your pocket on the bias. Don't match it at all. Just put the pocket on, you know. It looks really cute. Let's not use those. Where's my scissors? Oh, they're there. You know? No, we're going to do this. You know, what if you do that? This does not look like you're cheating. This looks like you were really smart, you know? Let's do that one here. You know what I mean? I don't really have enough to work with, you know? So then you have this little plaid pocket on there. You can even like artfully do it. Oh, I'll put the window pane over this intersection here, or whatever. You don't look like you're cheating at all. You look like you did something really clever. So, and if someone asks you, just, you know, don't ask their opinion again. One-way plaid to the mulch mat. That's right, to the mulch mat. You know, don't they have an expression like that in wrestling? To the mat, you know? That's what we're going to say. We're going to threaten every miscut here. You're going to the mulch mat unless you behave, right? Okay, so that was my little kind of piggybacked on Thoughtful Creativity See-Through Pattern Pieces thing. So that's in that video. Yeah, the 2 writing utensils, the parallel line. All right. All right, so I have 2 chicken scratch lists happening here. Just want you to know. One of them's upside down now. Okay, so this one's kind of fun. And I can't really demonstrate it because I wore a dress today. But using aluminum foil, oh, it looks like I've already pulled this out. How's that look on camera? I'm kind of curious. All right, we'll just use this piece that's already cut off that I didn't need apparently. And I think she recommended 4 layers. She tried it with 2 and it didn't work. I thought this was pretty clever. She uses aluminum foil to find her crotch curve on herself. And let me show you a screenshot from her video. And then plus I also have the name of her video on there. Where is it? Here we go. So you see in this left-hand picture, that's her holding up this aluminum foil to her crotch line. And then the right-hand picture underneath my face here, she lines it up to her pattern. And what she found was making the more layers of the foil made it stiffer so that it didn't lose its shape when you're kind of pulling it away from your body and then putting it onto the paper. So I thought that was a pretty clever thing because have you guys seen those bendable rulers for things like sleeves and crotch curves? I thought the foil could be a kind of a quick and dirty way to determine this. Like say you just want to see if it works. Maybe you've already found your crotch curve and you could test this theory. I love this idea. I'm definitely going to try it out. So yeah, and so you could see in the video she tried it and it really stuck. You know, it was like a piece of metal there. So that was in the, and see, that's her YouTube name, Colipra. Apparently, April is her name, and that's backwards at the end there, April, and then cool at the front. That's how you remember her YouTube thing. Do you, Lynn? How do you like that ruler? I've kind of been curious about it. Right, Eliza? Yeah, I know. I don't think any of us do. Yeah, so I think maybe getting some assistance from a sewing pal may be helpful in this case because they could kind of tell you, oh, I think that moved when you pulled it away. Yeah, I thought you might like this, Emily. I was thinking about you. All right, so that's her tip I got from, she probably had a few others, but that's the one I pulled from there. I'm so confused. Here we go. All right. Okay, so your sewing teacher, she has one where she is a teacher. She's actually a sewing teacher in the classroom. You love the flexi curve? Okay, so you've never used it. See, I would really like to try those. I would really like to try it for sleeves, sleeve caps and things like that. I'm used to my see-through ruler, but I'm kind of curious. Anyway, so she's a sewing teacher, so she's really looking for economical ways to spread her budget across her classroom. And one of the things that she has found is obviously buying cone thread so much cheaper than buying little spools, because those little spools can be like $3 or $4 and a cone of thread is what? $3 or $4, right? So why not buy the cone of thread? So I think space is an issue. Obviously, you know, I'm really lucky that I have, you know, that all that thread back there. That is because a factory went out of business, and also because I used to have a factory. So I used to buy thread. It feels a little overwhelming sometimes to have that many. I don't really need that many now. If I wanted all my machines to have a cone of thread, I would need 9 cones. That's a lot of cones of thread, right? I think you should at least get 2 if you have an industrial per color, or you know, you could share maybe your serger with your regular machine. That's good, Lynn. Oh, princess seams, that's another good use for that. And you know, maybe you would use that foil for your princess seam as well. I feel like the foil could be kind of an interesting thing for molding things. All right, but the problem with using cones of thread for her, and for most folks, is that a cone of thread isn't very compatible with your home sewing machine. So when I have run into the issue of I only have the thread I need on a cone and I'm using my home sewing machine, and I want to tell you guys, I've been doing this since I was like in my 20s, what I'd use, and how many of you have your sewing machine facing a wall? Like instead of a camera and a computer in front of you like it is for me, your sewing machine is facing a wall. Where's my... Oh my gosh, this is feeling like a junk drawer. Where? All right, well, I found 2 of them, but I know there's more in here. What the heck? Oh, here they are, here they are. All right, so if you, I kind of like jeans and mold me in. Me too, Nancy. All right, so if you're going to use a cone of thread on your home sewing machine, the problem with using it is that you can't just go directly to your machine, right? So if you can't go just directly to your machine and then start threading it, because, you know, it'll drag on whatever it is. You know, mine, like, obviously it has this thread cradle, right? So you have this, I have this thread cradle up here. So it goes up and then comes down to my machine, right? And so to imitate that, what I used to do was push pin and a paper clip, and I would put it on the wall, right, above my machine. So I would put it, you know, not quite the same height as that one there, but at least like 18 inches from the table surface. And then I would thread the cone through my paper clip. And as long as you get it up, you know, up high above your machine, it will drag free. It'll be drag free and go into your machine. And so when I haven't been able to find a paper clip, I've also used a binder clip. And so what I do is put the binder clip, and I use this bottom one here. And then there's also the, you know, weird paper clips you might have that you're like, I don't know what to do with this. It's too cute, right? You taking off? Okay, Sydney. I love how much family you have and you get to see. It's awesome. So yeah, so if you are using a home machine and cone thread and you have a wall behind you, you can just push pin it. Now she had her husband make her little stands with a wire coming up, and then you can, you know, thread it. You can buy cone holders as well. Yeah, you've had a cone holder. Yeah, so if you have a cone holder, great. And that's great if your you know, machine isn't pushed up against a wall. My welt template in my junk drawer. That's not my welt template. That's one of my tips I'm going to show you. Yeah. Oh, you put the cone in a cup and pop it on the floor and then thread. Why on the floor? That makes it lower. Interesting. You could even put it on maybe a shelf above, but you really don't want to do that. You really need the thread to draw off of the top and it not have any drag. So if you're using cone thread and you're like, every time I use cone thread, it doesn't really work very well. My stitches don't look really good. It's most likely that there's some sort of tension pulling on it along the way through the threading, and it really needs to not have that. So yeah, it doesn't, and if your machine threads like this, like sideways, This does not mean that you can't use a cone of thread. That is just how they make spool holders now to do that. You can still do this. Just make sure that it goes up and really high and then down so that it's drag free. And I really like the paper clip because it's smooth at the bottom. Same with the binder clip. Cheap stuff that you can have in your drawer as long as your machine's facing a wall, okay? I've used a clothes hanger when I was somewhere where there was a brick wall, like a cinder block wall, and there was a hook. I used a clothes hanger and I went through the clothes hanger. The floor seems to get, that's all you need. Oh, that's interesting. In a big cup behind your machine. Okay, the cup is interesting. Why are you guys putting it in the cup? Is that so that it doesn't move around and fall over? Because some of them are kind of light and they feel kind of wimpy and they fall over. So that's how she's saving on costs by using cone thread. And I think that's great. She only gets $7 per student for her budget for the year. What else she had? We did that one. All right, so she had one that I really strongly disagree with, so I thought I'd bring it up. So she wants to keep track, and you guys might want to do this. I don't. Personally, I wouldn't, and it's really because I've come into fire so many times. So do you ever see someone who takes a needle and does this? Don't ever show that to everybody because you will definitely hear how this is really bad for your thread. It can pierce the threads. It can weaken them if you're always stabbing your needle in there. That being said, one of her tips is that she puts a pin on her cones and puts her bobbin in there. And then that way her bobbin is always with the matching cone. And then, you know, she can even do a couple, you know. I'm just going to poke. I'm probably never going to go through this thread in my lifetime. You know, so if you had a couple of cones, or I mean bobbins, and I do, there you go. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a bobbin drawer just for this purpose and bobbin holders. But if you are sick of these little threads flying around, that is one of her tips. But don't let anyone from like Threads magazine see you do that because they'll say something. All right. She had a lot of tips in her thing, by the way, and apparently she had a really popular video on dollar store stuff that you can use for sewing tips and hacks. I didn't watch that one. She keeps her needles, like the packages of needles. I'll show you how I keep mine, but yours are probably really different than mine. This is the contents of my drawer, by the way. The entire contents is these two things of my little drawer right here. So I have these containers that the needles will come in sometimes, like especially the organ. And so I keep mine organized like this, and I use these as kind of ways to organize these sections here. And I just keep mine in one section is for knits, one is my 16s, one is my 14s, and then one is weird. Like I have one package for each of these different things. Well, look at that. We have our first troll. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to get there, you guys. Sorry. Let me, look at that. This is why I should watch on the, how do I need a moderator. Report. Did I get rid of it? Did I get them all? Yeah, right? 10K. You should see all the things I protect you guys from after a stream. That is a first. Oh no. We're really going to need a moderator to actually come regularly here. All right, so getting back to my little drawer here. So one of her, these are all needle packages, by the way. See that? They stick together. I don't know if you've ever seen these before. These are actually pretty cool packages, but talk about some single-use plastic. They've really come a long way, and so each of these little things tilts down. There's 2 needles behind each one, so this package only has 1 needle in it. Welcome to the big time. I don't know if I want to be here. So her suggestion, if you have like lots of these little packages, and for you, you probably have like maybe 2 packages of 14s and 2 universal and 2 12s and 2 of your sharps, your microtex, and 1 package of these ballpoints. She uses like she called it a tin, but it was like a little recipe box with index cards, and then she puts them in there. I thought that was kind of nifty, What do you use, Nancy? Yeah, exactly. You could use those, and I think she finds little organizing things like that at the dollar store. So, but you can find those at the hardware store too. All right, let me put this back. Oh, here's a Rogue package. Put it here. And then this is all my bobbins. I have a few too many for my bobbin holder now. And then here's I have 2 presser feet. I have this one and a Teflon one. All right. All right, so one of her other things that was pretty cool was if you still use bar soap. I couldn't find any in the house. She uses the last little sliver of bar soap, which I have to admit sounds pretty gross, because she takes these to school and lets the kids use them as marking soap, like marking chalk. But the soap washes out. And so I think the closest thing I have to show you like this is this ancient crayon that I have. Oh, it's an obstacle course. So in other words, she had it. I don't know what brand soap she uses, but she had lots of pieces like this big and like so thin. It looked like maybe Dove or something like that because of the shape of it and how thin they were. And she had a whole bin of them, and she takes them to school, and then they can use it, to mark. And the beauty of that is it's soap, so it'll wash out for sure, right? So I thought that was pretty clever. I just don't have any bar soap. All right, I resisted that. I love bar soap. I resisted it forever. I feel like it's a lot more environmentally conscious because you're not using a plastic container, even if you do refill the container. But my family likes other things. All right, there you go, Terry, right? It might even be worth getting a bar of soap and maybe seeing if you could slice off pieces. I feel like that's gonna go badly, don't you? Maybe there's something about the pressure of using it and washing it all the time that makes it, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. All right, so that's hers. That's your sewing teacher's little tips and tricks. All right, we're to the straw. Okay, we're here for the straw now. What am I going to use a straw for? Oh, I think I skipped the fork one, one of the fork ones too so far. Okay. I want all of this, and this, and this. Not you. Oh, but I do want to try okay, the straw. Will you, Nancy? Okay. So This one was in the video that Noemi sent me, and I cannot remember who did this straw video. It's linked in the description. Sorry, I don't remember the name of who does this. Let me see if I can see it. Let's see. I want to give proper credit. Oh, crap. Just lost the stream. I got to left click, open a new tab. All right. Oh, it's Treffa Craft. 5-minute video, fun to watch. This is getting exciting. Okay. So they used a regular straw and then a straw from a child's, or you know, the little juice boxes that had the bendy straw. And admittedly, she did use a bendy straw for most of this. So this was her tip. I'm going to try and use my silicone straw tip as well. This is too many things to manage this time. Do you see my other straw sitting here? It's not, right? Here it is. Not all of these straws have these silicone things. They are safer than just a metal straw though, so because they've had a lot of people have impaled the roof of their mouth, especially children. So having this silicone top is really nice for that. So she puts this straw on her presser foot. Let's get right down here. Boy, why does it keep moving? And she puts it, so let's cut it as well. Ooh, that's so satisfying. Puts it on the presser foot. Now I don't think this is gonna work for a lot of presser foots. Oh, it's not really gonna fit on mine. Okay. And then so I may have needed to do this first. Let's see though if I can do it. You might want to thread your straw first. So one of the tricks to doing this is sewing on elastic. Oh, see, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. The elastic won't feed. Okay, so this one might be bogus. This is definitely gonna go under my needle. Look at that. Okay, silicone's really easy. But I don't think your stuff's gonna glide as much. I'm nervous. I'm kind of nervous. Okay, so that's a piece of elastic. And this is supposedly gonna help you guide. It's like sliding off of my foot. Dang, I really wanted this one to work because it's just such a cool trick. Yeah, this isn't working at all. Oh, you guys have to go watch this video now. Oh, I sewed through it. Okay. She has the same foot as me too, by the way. All right. The other thing she had, they did was yarn. I don't have any yarn here at the office, and I think, you know, if you had like a regular straw, this is gonna feed through here a lot better. But the thing they don't show is the fact that your presser foot is pressing up against the item you're sewing. there, look at that. You can't even pull it through. Oh, see, Lynn, that's awesome. Yeah, there are feet that do that. Protective eyewear, yeah. It's a, what, Carnation? Yeah, so it's a way to feed these things. Look, it won't even go forward though. Okay, so this one doesn't work. Shoot, I was so excited about this. Her foot looks just like my foot. I mean, she has an industrial machine and everything. All right, well, that's a bust. Dang, the whole video that sparked this whole thing, I can't get to work. Shoot. So the other thing I was thinking about though, and this actually could be helpful, is can you sew on vinyl a little easier with a straw rather than if you don't have a Teflon foot. I'm looking for that piece of vinyl that I probably threw away. You know? Okay, so let's look at this scientifically. So here's my foot, right? And theoretically, you're supposed to put the straw on there. You would thread it first with your stuff. It's a little hard to get on when it's not on the machine, right? But look, there's no room for anything to pass through that. Hi, Denise. Well, yeah, so it's a video that one of you guys sent me, and it's by Treffa Craft. So I do have a bigger straw, but it's silicone. And this would definitely slide too far. All right, what if we used my zipper foot? Nope, not gonna work. What's the Teflon foot look like? It's thicker and wider. I swear her foot looks just like mine. I looked. Bigger straw. I also think you need enough space between these 2 feet. I know your presser foot doesn't look like mine. You also need a pretty thin thing to come out that hole right there, right? So you can only get something that's going to fit between the feet and be the same thickness. Yeah, well, I didn't have a whole lot of faith that the silicone was going to work. This one could because it's tight, right? This one, forget it, right? But that's just too tight. You would have to have something go through, and she looks like she uses an elastic just like this, right? I want it to work, but boy, I couldn't get it even to guide. I know you're all thinking what I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, this one I don't know. You know, this is also what I was gonna say is that I can't believe the views on some of these videos. It's just eye candy. Okay, so that does pull through a little bit, right? But not once my foot is down. It's not going to, because the pressure on the elastic is going to be too hard once I put my presser foot down. Okay. So the straw is too wide for the elastic to stay lined up. It's going to wiggle, right? Okay, now I'm stretching it. See, I don't see, okay, this is working, this is working. Okay, so that worked. Okay, okay. Let's see how well I do without the straw, because I actually don't see why this would be hard. Just get it going and then stretch. Yeah, I know. Well, exactly, Lynn. That's why I was kind of like, all right, I don't understand the appeal. I had far more control when I just did it myself. All right, thumbs down on the straw video. Yeah. Darn. I had all kinds of plans for that. So they used, on the straw video, they used it to sew on top of batting. I have no clue why you would ever want to just sew on raw batting, but they were like, look, your foot can't do it. And I was thinking, well, yeah, but why would you ever do that? And so that's what kind of gave me the idea of, could I use this in place of my Teflon foot? The thing is, my vinyl right now, my machine sews pretty good on it, and the purchase of the foot, the contact purchase, is back here, not at the front. So I don't think the straw is going to be a good solution for that. I also have a Teflon foot. I don't really use it very much. Teflon feet are really great, but they're very slippery. So if you're using it on just regular old fabric, you have no, it's slipperier than the metal. Even though the metal's smooth, there's just something about this that's just very slippery. And so things can wiggle around. So you can't really replace your foot with one of these, but if you're sewing something that your machine just absolutely hates, this helps a lot. So, well, the whole video that inspired this. Okay, so let's see. That's pretty funny though. Okay, so who sent me the someone wanted to, has always wanted to try sewing continuous binding. I never do it this way. I definitely am known for being someone who loves to sew binding. I would say, you know, I'm going to save that rubber band. And all of this stuff is going in ye old trash. All right. That's what I always say, Malin. That's my trick. Yeah. Raw batting. Hi, Kate. To make bra cups. So, but you don't just sew in the middle of it, right? Like, you're not just sewing in the middle of it for sewing's sake. That's what they were showing, and I was like, well, yeah, it's not going to go good for a lot. All right. So you guys have seen me cut and sew binding like 100 yards of it, right? And I always cut mine a very particular way. But I cut a lot of it at once. So, yeah, I mean, I think, Nancy, if you're going to use a fat quarter, you're going to end up with a lot of seams no matter what style you use. But I do think you get a few more seams with this method. So this is a fat quarter. I cut this piece of fabric up. If you don't know what a fat quarter is, it is... Terry, a fat quarter is, say you have a piece of fabric. All right, here is the roll it's coming off of. Okay, this is the selvage. I don't think what a fat quarter is explained often enough for folks, so I feel like people are scared to ask. So, knots for piecing bits. Do you have fabric under it when you're sewing the batting? I just don't know why you would ever just be sewing batting, just batting, you know, like your feed dogs are going to hate that, or it's going to love it. It's going to chew it up and eat it. Okay, My chair is kind of uncomfortable. So this is the cut edge right here. So when you go to the store, this is your bolt or your roll. Sometimes these two selvages are folded together, right? And you have a piece of fabric like this coming off of the bolt, right? A fat quarter is, say they cut off a ½ yard, right? Doesn't matter how wide your fabric is, selvage to selvage, but your length grain, 18 inches is a ½ yard, and then they fold that in half, selvage to selvage, and cut it. And then this is your fat quarter. So basically, it is, instead of a quarter of a yard long and narrow, it's a quarter of a yard that is fat and chunky. Hi, Kathleen. Yeah, but they can be 18 and 28. They can be whatever. Basically, what they're doing is they're cutting the ½ yard in half along the middle between the selvages. All right, so that's your fat quarter. So I'm going to do it the way she has you do it. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut along this diagonal. So this is my selvage. I'm going to put this wrong side up. Hi, Kathleen, by the way. All right, so here's my fat quarter. Do you want me to do, I'm going to do this at the big table. Let's go to the pattern table. All right. Do I need anything else? I need this. I feel like I might need some other things. We're going to jump over this big pile of stuff that I created. Oh, I need to turn the... Oh, that was about to go badly. Just a second. I need a studio babe. Would anyone like to interview? There we go. I gotta be able to see you guys. Is this too bright? All right, so here we have our fat quarter. All right, so there's the selvage right here. Aw, thanks, Kate. It's definitely a work in progress. I'm always trying to make it good. All right, we're going to cut it diagonally across. You don't have to be perfect about this, but it's great if you can be. If you want true bias. True bias is on the 45-degree angle to the length grain or the cross grain, all right? First step is that, okay? Doesn't matter which way. All right, and now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take these two pieces here and we're gonna sew them together at these straight ends, okay? What are the bits under my mat? Postcards? All right, so now we're going to sew this together. Hop over the pile. I should probably just move that. I won't move the face cam. All right, so we're going to sew these two together. Look at this. And you're basically sewing the length grain. I'm going to line up this juncture right there. You can do whatever seam allowance you want. I'm going to do a really wide one for this because I'm going to cut off the selvage. You don't really want your selvage a part of this. Okay? All right, so we've sewn this seam together. I'm going to just trim it off, that's all. Maybe you don't need to do that. And then if you want, you can press this open right now with an iron. So now look, we have a parallelogram, right? Do I have my geometry right? All right, so we'll press this open. So the whole goal of this is that you're going to have one continuous piece of bias binding, and you're not sewing all of your cut strips into this long line. All right. So now I can't remember how much she does, what width she does hers. They're wider than what I like to do. I like mine 1 3/8. You can do whatever you want. I get about 5 yards of binding per fat quarter. I get about 25 yards per yard, 25 to 30. So you can see doing a fat quarter limits the amount. Can I change? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. This is a lot of changing. I'm so sorry, you guys. Yeah. So I pressed the seam open. That's all I did. I just trimmed the seam allowance right here. I just wanted to salvage off of there. And then I press this open if you like. Okay. If you like. I would. I think it'll make your binding go through a little easier. All right. And so I get about 5 yards per fat quarter or so when I do it about 1 3/8 of an inch wide, which is a little under 1.5 inch. And she does hers a little wider. That's why her video says 3 yards. So then you're going to draw on your binding. And I'm just going to do it in the Sharpie. So I'm going to do it in the width that's going to be usable to me since I'm going to cut up this binding I didn't plan on having. So we're going to make it parallel to these diagonal lines here. And a good check if you're like wondering, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? What if I sew this all up and it doesn't work? This should be stretchy. This is the length grain still. And the reason I picked this print is so that you can see that there is a directional thing happening. So these lines are length grain and cross grain. I didn't have a striped that was a fat quarter. All right, so let's just mark all this up. This is also why I don't do this, because then you have Sharpie on the sides of your binding. You could use something that's not Sharpie though. And also this whole step, like if I need 100 yards of binding, I am not doing it this way. No way. This is takes way too long. This is the part of the video that will speed up. But you're stuck with me now because it's live. Oh yeah, I used to do this when I worked at that fabric store, the one in Humboldt County. I worked at a few fabric stores, but I used to do it this way there. It's pretty cool. I just think it's a lot of work. It's also marking up my ruler, which is a little bit annoying to me. I'm not very picky about things, but I don't like my rulers to have marks on them. I should do sewing retreats. That would be really fun. I would like to do a sewing meetup at least. Wait, did I just do this one this one looks kind of crooked. Let me straighten this up a little bit. The fabric is just a little dark. If someone wants to host a sewing retreat, I'll come. I don't know what I could talk about though. All right, so this last little bit here is only like an inch and 1/8. And I have to trim it off in order for this to work, unfortunately, but we can still use it. It can just go in the narrower bin. So cut this piece off. If it isn't the same width as what you're doing. All right, and now we're gonna go back to the sewing machine. And I'll move the face cam. I don't know if my scissors are gonna be good enough for this. "65 people in here. Welcome, welcome." I think people like sewing tips and hacks, don't they? This one's been fun. I do have a video on how I do binding. Okay, so now you're going to sew this together. And think of it this way, you want these lines to meet up with the other side, but you need to offset it by 1, okay? Yeah, I'm trying to do this in a way, Eliza, that really illustrates what's happening. So here, you see, this is what you're going for, okay? This one here is on its own. So line up it 1 row off. You have to do it that way. Are you saying I talk too much, Janice? Wow. Okay, so when you go to sew this part on, one thing you have to think about is your seam allowance. So I'm going to draw it on here so it's really obvious. You can't line it up cut edge to cut edge. You have to line it up on the seam line, all right? So we'll do 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm just gonna draw that on here. Okay, that's not visible at all to you guys. Do I have a Sharpie here? Come on, my kingdom for a Sharpie. There's a Sharpie. Yeah, unlike their video, don't unlike my video. I'm the I exposed it. All right, so now we'll bring it over here. I'm trying to make this very logical, you know? And see, look, you're kind of, you know, folding it. There's the seam that we sewed, all right? And then we're gonna put this 1/4 inch seam allowance on this one here. So essentially where you want these to line up is at this point right here. See this intersection of your 1/4 inch seam allowance and your diagonal, your binding lines? That's what you want to line up. I'm telling you guys, I could have already cut up an entire yard of fabric into binding. All right, so look, I have it. This is, I use my awl for all kinds of things. Wait, is this 1 row off? It's not. Let's make sure we're 1 row off. One, 2, 1. All right. All right, so we have that lined up. All right, and so now we're going to sew this seam together. You know, I think if you're going to go to all this trouble to do your binding this way, one little gift to your future self you can do is do a long back stitch over every of these one of these lines. Because when you go to cut this apart, you are going to be making it weak right there, and you know, when you pull your binding to bind something, you can pull it apart there. So this is basically like as if you were seaming each piece of binding. So I'm just going to put a back stitch there. I'm improving upon this tutorial. This woman, very sweet and generous with her time, but it was a little, like, I really felt for her because her audio, like, you guys really tolerate some tough audio. And she cuts herself in that video too. Yay! Oh, and that one unlike is not from you. Someone's already unliked it. Wow. It's hilarious. And maybe it's the person we just blocked and banned for spamming in chat. Okay, so here we go. I'm a little bit off right there. See that? Not good, you guys, not good. You really need to be lined up. Look at how good I am at the beginning there. See those lines? Look, they start getting off about right here. This edge is very stretchy, so it could be just user error on my part. All right, now this is the magical part. And you now cut this. And you have one long continuous piece of binding. But it's kind of hard to use your rotary knife, but I imagine you could. Just don't cut anything else besides what you're cutting, because you might end up cutting through. But yeah, look at those two seams are pretty close together. I feel like I have to show you how I do it now, and I want to show you the difference. Are you guys down for that? My machine is a fast back tag. That's me doing it though. I have an automatic back tag. That one's really fast, Janice. That one, yeah, that one's really fast. I don't use it very often. All right, so then you're gonna go on and on and on, and then yeah, you're gonna have this long continuous piece of bias already all sewn together. Do you guys want to see how I do it, or are you guys sick of seeing me talk about binding and how I like to do it? Because I know that you have to seam mine together, but I don't know. I feel like I've got it down pat, you know? Yeah, you want to see how I do it? Okay. All right, so let's go back to the pattern table. Where's my, oh, it's over there. Lovely, lovely. Love it when I leave the mouse over there. Okay, gotta move my chat and step over the obstacle course. All right, let's find a piece of fabric here. All right, we'll use the same thing. No, I won't use the same thing. That way I don't have 2 fat quarters of this binding I didn't plan on having. Okay, so this is a fat quarter, but I have obviously cut some chunks out of it. So we're gonna make it, it's not a fat quarter, it's a ½ yard. See, it's a ½ yard, right? And now I'm going to cut it along this fold here. And we'll make it into a fat quarter. A fat quarter with a bite out of it. So I always cut off the selvage, because that is just going to plague you with your binding. So just cut it off. Just cut it off now. All right, and so now you have all these 4 raw edges. And then you're going to take this and fold it diagonally, all right? Now take this and put the fold closest to you. And now you're just gonna stack the folds. Fold this on top of itself, just like this. Keep folding it. All of your folds are on one end here. If you have a grid ruler here, I like these. If you feel more comfortable with a thicker ruler, I understand that, just because sometimes the ruler can feel a little bit too thin and unsafe. I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit. Why not? Right? Okay, so we've stacked our folds, and then I'm going to just cut this chunk off. So I used to cut binding, and I would cut a whole yard at a time. I would actually cut a 44-inch piece at a time, or whatever the width of the fabric was. That was the length, because I like to square, and that really helps, right? So then I would cut off this kind of thinner area here. See, this is all nice and thick. This is a little thinner. You're going to put your ruler perpendicular to this fold and cut it off. And this is kind of where you can start kind of getting off. And I just kind of put it wherever. Like, you know, depends. And then take this little piece. This piece is going to be bigger or wider depending on how big of a piece. And I just stack it up. I just stack those raw edges with those. And now we're ready to go. And I'm just going to cut my binding. Now don't just toss these piles. Put them over here. You can if you want, but I'm going to piece it together. I'm going to toss that. I don't care about that. And I'm just cutting this the width I want. So be mindful that you're actually doing these parallel. This was the blade I used to shred that fabric the other day, so we're going to be a little forgiving of it. Keep all these edges lined up and then get your, and just cut through here. You are seeing what put me into hand therapy, because I've cut thousands of yards of binding. Now you're gonna get this weird little piece here. Sometimes it's nice and even and usable. Sometimes it's the right width. If it is the right width, I will stack it up and then trim on each side to the width I want. This one isn't, so I'm just gonna toss those. All right, so now we have this little stack here. Oh my gosh, seriously? Welcome to 10K. See, I told you that nothing happens when you hit 10,000. It just gets worse. Oh, I'm gonna put the user in timeout. There we go. Oh, I love being a live streamer. Okay, let's go back. Back to the machine. Oh, I didn't move them. Well, I hid them as a user from chat. I have reported them and I've timed them out. I don't think I can block them. I'll tell you the options are report, remove, put user in timeout, and remove. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever. Okay, so here we go. So here is my little pile of little pieces of binding, and sometimes I do this too. I take the time and I line up all my pieces. Okay, those are definitely different. When I did lots and lots of binding, I just brought it over in a big old pile. Stack up all your ends like this, that match. Like this. Decide how short of a piece that you want. I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want, yeah, that's fine. Don't throw them away. You may be desperate. How do I know that? How do I know that? You have that one customer that emails you, or better yet, phones you and says, I really must have this needle case, but it has to have this binding like you used to do it. You guys reported them? Oh, thanks. All right, so I'm gonna match this edge up. This was a straight edge because it was probably that little piece from that chunk I cut off. And you can see the chunk didn't make any difference. All right, and so over here, I think that all of these won't be the same angle, but we'll just do it as we go. And so now you have your little stack here. See, same angle, right? And then we're just gonna sew them together. Lay it on here at the seam juncture. For me is 1/4 inch. This is a good place for my automatic back tack. I will admit I didn't usually back tack at all when I did a lot of binding. It's kind of depends on what you want, all right? And then I roll it as I go, and I usually have like a little paper cylinder or something, but if you don't, that's okay. You can even use just a piece of cardboard that's been rolled up. Like sometimes I will do this, right? Just something in there, but you don't really have to. So now lay it like this, tube side up like this, and keep sewing. So remember, this is the other end, so some of those ends don't match. This one does. And then I'm so out of practice, I feel so clunky doing this. Now Rayanne was always on the fence. Like she was just like, oh, I do not want to spend the time sewing all this together, but I would do it for her as like, you know, a kind boss. The other thing I recommend is clipping these. And this is when you can see like doing the smallest seam allowance is better. And when you set this on the table like this and coil it, it means that all your edges are going to be flush of your little binding roll. It's really nice when you have like a little cardboard tube, and I always save them from old ones when we used to have it cut professionally, because that would be like the fabric tube in there and it was really nice and stiff. And so yeah, I would just put all these together. And a lot of times I'll even do this. I'll trim this if I'm going to put this through my binding machine, which I don't have anymore, but I had a binding machine, and the binding machine really liked perfectly cut binding. So if your angles are wrong, just flip it over, flip the angle. It was that way, now it's that way. This is why I usually pre-cut all of the angles so that I'm not sitting there like cutting it as I go. And I also don't do the back tack. I just sew it. So, wind. Sometimes I skip the trimming and I do it at the very end. And then I will have a nice roll. And the thing is, like, Rayanne was always like, oh, I don't want to do that because it seems like it takes a long time. But when you kind of can make your sewing more pleasurable and the binding kind of draws off nicely, it just makes all the difference. And it's a time saver in the long run. And what we do when we put binding on our machine, when we're hand doing it and not using a binding attachment, I put it on a spindle. I'll show it to you. Some of these pieces are a little short. So back behind my, oh, see it, Nancy? Nice, nice. Okay, so you see this spool back here? The industrial machines have this because when we tilt back the head of our machine to like check the oil, that's for the machine to rest on. But most people use it to like hold a spool of elastic, or, you know, I will put my binding on that spool, and it's great because it holds it and it draws off like this, right? It makes it a lot nicer, and so that you're not doing this and it's pulling all over your table, right? So this was to hold a yarn ball, and it had a stand and a little hook and everything. Well, we stole it and I put it on that spool, and then that way the spool kind of glides on there because it doesn't sit flush. And so see, it spins really easily. So that's one of my little tips for all of you out there using an industrial and you are doing this a lot. So, all right, yeah, so I just have a few more of these, and this is how I would put my binding together. I wouldn't do the continuous thing. I don't want to cut it. I just slice it up. And to be honest, if you don't really need a long continuous piece, we would have been done a while ago, right? I just cut it all up on the table and I put it in a bin. Yeah, oh, Louise, totally. Yeah, so sometimes I will do that too. If I have this nice and tight, you know, if I had a little spool in there and this was a little tighter, then I go back and I kind of trim these little corners like this. It helps a little bit. You're going to trim them when you sew them anyway, so you might as well do it now. But yeah, pressing it. So there you go. That's my method of doing binding. So speaking of binding for a few different reasons, I have one tip of mine, and then we're going to use the soda can thing. So let's move this guy out of the way. I've shared this with you before, but if you're new here, this is my tip on picking binding. I use a window. And like I say, I've picked out a lot of binding. When we would sit there with the vendor and we pick out fabric, we would be like, okay, that and that works really good, but what are we gonna pick for binding? None of the coordinating prints go very well. So we made this little window on the fly, and it was really helpful because sometimes you just can't tell like what a binding is gonna look like. And so we would cut the window the size of the finished binding. Ours was roughly 3/8 of an inch. And I always drew the length grain on there as a reminder. And then I would put that parallel to the swatch on their board, and then I could see what would happen. Because, you know, something like this, you might end up getting, that'd be cool, right? Is that really going to happen? And is it going to look good? No, you might get it like this. You might get it, maybe they cut it. We sent out our fabric to be cut into binding. What if they get it off a little bit and you get some intersections and some not, right? So you just got to think about it, what you want. And let me show you a few other fabrics where you could see like, you know, some unfortunate problems with picking some. Let's see. What else? What else? Where's that dot? Oh, and I'll show you a major fail of one of our bindings. All right, yeah, this. Okay, well, this is kind of a good smattering. Oh, this is a good example right here. Oh. Actually, I just thought of a really good example. Let me go grab that. Because this is what happens when you're at the fabric store and you need binding. It can be a little bit overstimulating in there. Well, you figured it out though, right? You probably each time were like, why isn't this going together? And then, yeah, you cut it, you just correct the angle, because sometimes I do too. Okay, so here's a few fabrics. What if you picked something, you know, with faces, like, is that gonna look weird? You know, like, what's it really gonna look like? And you can kind of, you know, hold your window up to it and then see, would that look weird? You know, like these little tiny eyeballs, you know? Ah, sure, Martina. That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying this. This is fun for me too. You know, something like that. Or what if you're like, oh, this is all the right colors, but whoo, this fabric is kind of crazy. Well, does it tone it down as binding? You kind of lose what's going on with this fabric. And this works also for crosscut. If you're a quilter and you use crosscut, I know you don't use 3/8 inch wide, you're using probably something quite a bit wider. It's just a great way. So you might get binding that looks like this and this, and then you sew it together and it doesn't even go together, right? So you kind of need to suss that out. Look at these little rakes. I love this fabric. You know, something like this. You'd get a lot of leaves on there. Be kind of cute, you know, and the occasional rake. So here's one that this fabric came. This is the length grain. I loved this fabric when we had it in the line. I used a solid pink lining, and I used a small pink, yeah, here it is, geometric. This was the group right here. And it had a lining that was like this dark color. What if you wanted to use this as binding? We all know like stripes and plaids are really great for binding. The problem with this one is you would get, it would turn out straight. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be plaid anymore. That's what your binding would look like. And on top of that, it would look like this sometimes, and this sometimes, and that, and that. It'd be kind of all over the place. And it would be these straight pieces, not plaid at all. And this just kind of helps you tune out everything and kind of see what's it really going to look like. So that's my little tip, and you can do, I've done it on a scrap piece of paper when I'm at the fabric store. They did not know what I was doing, and that's just how it goes. And you can see, look, this is another one where the fabric had these diagonal lines. So they were like basket lines. Like I call it basket because it was called Picnic. The group was called Picnic. And it had these lines. And when we cut it into binding, it straightened all those out. But look, sometimes they didn't get cut quite straight. So look, they travel across the binding. You never know what can happen. And here, I'm going to show you this one colossal fail. We used to buy fabric like 90 yards for the outer, 90 yards for the self, 90 yards for the lining. Sometimes 125 yards. This is one of those. So we ordered 125 yards of fabric. I had it cut into binding. And I don't know if any of you recognize this print. So what it was dots on the fabric. It was diagonal strips of dots. My mistake, I sent this to the binder and I didn't say cut it this way. I just sent it. And I just said, do your usual. And what ended up happening was we got it back and this looks great, right? And then look at that. Then there's just nothing. It just was all over the place. It looked so funky. Look at this, is a seam. I couldn't do that. So, you know, you just never know. I've been trying to get rid of this binding for years. I finally did. It looks great, and, you know, I use it still, but I couldn't use it in that group particularly. That was a group people were really looking forward to because it was using this really famous like fabric designer and paper designer. And so I just couldn't do that, you know. And ombres are another challenge, but they can be kind of cool. It wasn't an ombre, it was that those dots moved around. There was these big white spaces. I did use that fabric for something else, and then I had it cut this way. It looked great. So, all right. Okay, so this brings me to the soda can. I'm so excited for this. I hope this works. All right, so this one comes from, I haven't even used a fork yet. What time is it? Oh my God, I'm so overexcited today. Who uses the can? Where'd the can come from? Did I not write it down? Wait, who uses the can? I think it was the Truffa Craft folks. It's linked in there. Let me see so I can properly credit who it was. Yeah, it's Truffa Craft again. Admittedly, the straw thing was by them, you guys, and that did not work out. Shoot, now I'm kind of like doubting it. All right, so I cut the top and bottom off this soda can. I think, Terry, you're going to like this. All right, we're going to, let's see, we're going to make this the width of our binding. They use this in a much wider piece. Maybe that's my first, my first warning. I'm going to make this squared off, and we're going to round these so they don't cut the heck out of us. I've never done this before. By the way, don't buy that soda. It's terrible. Get rid of these. Oh, there's my piece of vinyl. All right, and so then you make this into a binding attachment. So we're going to fold it in half. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. All right. This isn't going to work. We're going to fold it in again. Oof, man, she was good. Yeah. All right, let's get the non-hand cut binding out. We're going to set this up to succeed. We're going to use my knit print or this one, because these were, or maybe this one. What else was not cut by me? This one here. Okay. Okay. This is, none of these were cut by me. Yeah, these were, you can see, like, look at that. Look how sheer that is. Hubba hubba, right? Let's try this lightweight art gallery. So yeah, I'm going to double stick tape this to the front of my presser foot, and we're going to make a binding attachment. And so I have a lot of experience with binding attachments. I think this needs to be a tad wider. I'm going to make it a tad bit wider than the binding. I'm going to use these scissors, not my sewing scissors. Okay. Imagine if you could just make your binding attachment each time. Let's see if this works. I'm going to fold it in half. Maybe this would work better on a wider. Okay, I'm just trying, I'm try-harding because I'm trying to be precise. It's not hard to bend this or anything. It's actually quite easy. One thing I know when using the binding attachment is getting your binding in there perpendicular to the ends, you know, and making it nest in there. You don't want it to pull at uneven amounts. Okay. Okay, so the other thing I noticed is she used crosscut and I'm using bias, but it didn't look very nice. It had a lot of torquing and wrinkles. And so that's why I think, like, oh, if you could do this on bias cut, it would actually look nice. Yeah, but I'm not pre-ironing it, Kate. I'm going to sew it in now. Because I have those. I have these. Never use them. All right. So then they take a piece. If this sticks to my machine forever, I'm writing a very angry letter. This is carpet tape. They used, they don't say what they're using, but it's double stick tape because it was double-sided. That stuff. Okay. You know what I could do? I'm going to protect my machine table. No. Okay, so I just stuck it to this tape, which is a little stronger than, it's a little stronger than like washi tape. Okay, let's do this. I'm not bleeding. Yeah, I'm pretty accident prone, aren't I? Let's do it on this. I don't really care about this fabric very much anymore. You also should have a nice smooth edge here with your doing binding. Okay, make sure you have that edge right in front, the fold edge in front of your needle. Stretching it out, but it's working. Ooh, that does not look like it's about to work. That looks like it got flipped. Okay, it's not working anymore. Let me see if I can fix it. Yeah, right. I'm gonna zoom it in a little bit so you guys can see. How's, oh, why isn't this staying? There we go. How's that? Is that a little better? Can you see what's happening there? Yeah, a bunch of it. No, you just make your own. I'm not buying the soda again. So this little bubble right here is not good. So it might not be wide enough, or it's not seated in there properly. Let's see if I can get it going. No, okay. This took me a bit to get good on my binding attachment too. I think the most genius thing I've done is I stuck this to this other piece of tape rather than my machine though. Might be that I am folding too tight. The binding is so stretchy, so I'm going to do this a little looser. I'm going to keep a lot of slack in my spool here as well. And I'm going to hold it like this. I'm going to kind of hold it like this. Let's see. Let's see if we can get it to. It doesn't want to fold very accurately though. It's not staying up into the folds. Yeah, this is too much work. I used to have a binding attachment, so I know. Okay, so what if we did cross cut? Would this work if we did cross cut? Let's see. Okay. Why does that look so much wider? That's so funny. That looks so much wider than that, but it's the same width. All right, let's try cross cut. I'm really try-harding, aren't I? This is too fiddly, you guys. I could have bound my whole project by now. Treffer Craft is feeling like those 5-minute crafts people to me right now. Okay, but look, it does stay more behaved. Right, Kate? I was wondering the same thing. I'm wondering, like, yeah, what if you had something that you could, you know, mount your binder on, or just buy a binding attachment, honestly. Yeah, so crosscut is the way to go. There you go. Crosscut's the way to go. You could probably fiddle with this and get it going really good. Look at that. It's pretty good, but I mean to tell you, I could literally bind this. Let's see. Let me prove it. You know, like, I could have just done it so much faster with my 2 passes. And then I know I'm getting it, you know? Yeah. All right, well, try it. Do you think I can? Where did I put that? Oh, man, it feels like a yard sale on my machine right now. How do you think? The problem with this, Kate, is that this doesn't actually fold your binding. In case you guys don't know what this is, these are these Clover bias makers. So cut it at a diagonal, put it in there. I know this from having a binding machine. We had a broken seam ripper that we always used to do this part right here. All right, and get it, pull it out there. You have to have this straight, right? Nothing can pull on it back here. And see, look, it only does that. So it's not actually folding it all the way like this. So yeah, that was a good thought. Good thought, Kate, right? Too bad. It's not sharp, you guys. It's really not bad. See? I smoothed off all the edges. So I still think, like, if you really wanted to fiddle with it, maybe, but just buy a binding attachment. Okay, well, gosh, I was really excited about that one. All right, we're getting down to our list. We haven't used forks yet. Okay, so let's see. We have too much stuff on the table. One of the things that... Do you guys watch Downtown Tailoring's videos? They're really entertaining, really good. She's super clever and has all kinds of tips and tricks and great sewing skills. Yeah, no problem, Kate. I mean, I was like down with it. I was like, oh, you're right, that's great. And I forgot, it doesn't do that last fold, which is the one we need, right? So, all right. So, Downtown Tailoring has lots of videos, and one of the things someone sent me was using a button as like a hump jumper. So, you know, say you have a really stiff seam, a thick seam, right? And then you want to hem something. We'll just cut this apart so you can see. We'll pretend like this is the bottom of a pair of jeans, right? And you're having trouble getting over this hump right here. I don't do this enough on my projects. It is absolutely true though. What you can do is when you approach something like this is too thick. I made this way too thick, so we'll just pretend like it's folded up. But if you are trying to get on there and trying to sew, sometimes your machine, mine's an industrial, it's gonna do it. It just won't do it, and it's because the pressure of the back of your presser foot there isn't pressing on anything. It's only at the front here, right? And so if you can put a button back here, it kind of evens it out. It's a really quick way to even it out, and then you have this equal pressure, and then the feed dogs can grab it. And so when you think about the mechanics of what's happening here, and like, why won't my machine go forward? And you're like juggling lots of things, right? You're probably holding your hem, you're probably walking your hand wheel, and your hands are kind of busy, so you can't really get this to get going. You can just put that little button back there, and then it keeps the pressure of your presser foot even, and then press on the feed dogs, which are pulling the fabric. So that is a really great little, it's easy, you know. A lot of folks have these that come with their machine. Mine looks like a bunch of plastic rectangles that are grommeted at one end, and so you can kind of slide out as many or as few. So you could you know, swivel out and have 3 of them or 1 of them. You know, there's like a varying widths you can make it. So, but a button is pretty much all you need. So, all right, and then what was the other thing she had? Oh, she does this thing called Euro hems, which are pretty cool to watch, by the way. Okay, bringing in, I don't have something to show you here, but say you want to bring in a garment that has side seam pockets. You don't have to remove the pockets. You can just, let's see if I can imitate this. Because I thought this was like, why didn't I think of that, you know? Can I do this here? Let's see. This, if you have a garment, like say you bought a dress secondhand, or maybe you made something, you put in those beautiful pockets and it doesn't fit, has a button that locks the horse. Oh, that's cool, Malin. But then there's no pressure. Interesting. All right, so let's put some miniature pockets on this. And then I promise we're getting to the forks. It'll be the next 2 things we'll do. You've probably guessed what they're for, too. All right, so let's sew something with pockets. All right, so we're gonna make this look like the garment you already own, right? You'd wear this, right? All right, so we have our garment here, right? Here's our little pocket. Hello, right? Little tiny pocket. Yeah, for one of them, the forks, one for pleating, one for a zipper. All right, so there's our pocket, right? So, but say that this thing is just too big and you want to take it in, and the side seams is the most logical place. I don't know why, I've never thought of doing this. So just take it in. So we're gonna take it in, And then we're gonna pivot right where that pocket is already sewn right here. So here's my seam of my pocket right here. Meow. Don't get Sharpie on your machine. Don't get Sharpie ever. Don't do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna sync up with this pocket here. And this is probably all overlocked, or it could even be French seamed, you know. And then now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna carry it on. So this seam is right here. This is my new one. And then we wanna bring it in there. So we're gonna bring it in. You might make your pocket opening a tiny bit smaller. Oops, one more. And then pivot, right? And now you're going to kind of trim this away so that you can use your overlock. If this is French seams, then you're probably just gonna have to leave it flapping around in there unless you wanna take it all apart. Okay, Martina, see ya. So trim this away so that you have a nice smooth curve you can go through your serger, right? And then trim this one away here. Finish that edge again, or just this little area that you sewed. And now your garment has been taken in and you still have your pocket. Isn't that cool? If you want your pocket, if your pocket's too long, then, there you go. Sew across that curve before you do your serger, and now you have the same, size pocket. Trim away that bulk. And then you just took it in. That's so funny. I never thought of doing that. Oh, it seems kind of familiar too. I feel like I did it once for something and that's what happened, but I didn't intend to do that. I was just lucky, So, all right, so that's one. All right, let's get to our forks. So one of the fork tricks has to do with putting a zipper head onto coil chain. And do I not have coil chain here? What? Oh my gosh, this is the worst pile of stuff I've ever had to put away. Well, maybe it's not the worst, but it's close. I need a zipper. Here we go. Oh, that's a good one, Louise. I like that. I like that. Yeah, using the little pack of needles as a hump jumper. Great idea. Okay. So if you've ever been here before, you know that I have a lot of this zipper by the yard still. And putting the zippers on has become second nature for me. But when I was learning, it was definitely kind of tricky. I can do it without a fork, but I'm going to show you it with the fork. I've never done it before with the fork, by the way. So, because I was never given the tool you need in order to put a zipper pull on the zipper. And you don't need one. You can separate it. I do this differently than this gal too. And this was, who was this? I don't have it written down who this was. I feel like I'm missing people now. Let's give her, this woman sells the zipper lady. That's her YouTube channel, the Zipper Lady. She sells zipper by the yard. It sounds like she has a lot of it. So cut it, I like to cut it perfectly straight across. She doesn't do that. But this way I can get the zipper in here. And I don't push anything. I barely have this in here, like it's just sitting there. And I make sure that it's equal across, because you want your teeth to line up. And then I just push with my thumb, boop, and then I'm done, right? And you can see I have this little bit of a little bump there. You can see the side's a tiny bit shorter. That's what happens if you do this and it's a little bit uneven and you put it in there. You can really get a bump in there like that. See that? A little bit of a twist. You don't want that. So what she uses is a fork. And so when I worked somewhere, the first time I ever came into knowing about continuous zipper and zipper by the yard, I love it, by the way, but I know it's not great for everybody because I'm kind of stuck with two colors. I have cream and black, and stuck with this weight. This isn't a great dressmaking weight. It's really great for bags and anything like that, dog beds, stuff like that. And it's not separating, so it has its limitations, but it's just something I have as a resource, and I'm still making my way through finishing it. I still have 2 bundles for sale on my website even, I think. So it's something that it's great, it's cheap, dirt cheap, but it has its limits and uses. So she says use a fork. Now she said she uses a 3-tine fork. I couldn't find one. And I went through like all my forks. So you need to make sure that it can go under, like get on here really well. So it has to go under your pole. Oh, this one will work. Okay, this is the one. And then, let's see, do we do it? Yeah, so then she clamps it to the table, or she uses her belly to press up against it. So that's what I'm gonna do because I don't have a clamp with me. And then she puts it in there like this. She puts one side in first, and then the other side. And then she, like that. And that's how she gets her zipper slider on. So that's the fork trip for that. I obviously don't do that. I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to sewing. Now we're to the fork pleating. Let's use this one. All right, and so the video that was sent to me was one by someone named Bella May. And I think she does all kinds of sewing related videos, but mostly cosplay. I'm clearing off my table a little bit here. But I definitely have some issues with this fork pleating thing. Her math is definitely a little funny too. So the idea with your fork, oh gosh, this piece of fabric is super long. Is that you're going to use this to create your pleat. Let's see, you're gonna go away from yourself too, like this. So you create your pleat, and then you can sew it down, right? So you can kind of get this going pretty quickly. Here's my problem with this. Where do you put the fork in to do the next pleat? You know what I mean? Like you really have to get the knack, because if you start way over here, your pleat's too far away. If you start too close, you're too close to your other pleat, right? Nobody mentions this in the comments. It's the first thing I thought of. Okay, cool. You can use a fork to pleat. I get it. I think maybe starting with if your fork is really curved like this, I would maybe start with it up, facing down like this, so that when you turn, oh wait, no, let's do it, start facing up. You always end up, oh yeah, start with it, oh, the curve, the bottom of the fork facing you, and it's a little easier to deal with. Do it in the bottom tine. That's awesome, Elizabeth. Yeah, this gal did not come up with this. I've seen this before, and I saw earlier videos. All right, I think that this is interesting, but I think that this isn't very accurate unless you're really trying to get through a lot. But I could eyeball these and do better, you know? And faster too. That one I didn't do too well. The other thing is her math is not correct on one of her things. She says you need 3 times the amount of fabric, and that is not right. You need, depends on the width of your pleat. Because what she does is she counts the fabric going across here as one of the layers. But this is the, let's break this down, just because doing pleats can be really confusing. I'm not saying all her math is wrong. It's not, but she's saying it incorrectly. If you're a pattern drafter and you're drafting something with pleats, all of the pleat is the extra, right? Because look, if this pleat wasn't here, this and this would still be here. It is not, you do not count this much, this width of the pleat in your calculation. All right, that's a really crucial thing to know, because you may end up, like she was like, well, if I wanted a, whatever it was, I'd need 600 inches of fabric. I was like, doesn't that alarm you? Like when you think about it that way, like if you're doing these really voluminous gowns in cosplay, I bet they use a lot of fabric, you know? Can the fork slide after you fold it? I'll look at that. I'm gonna do some more of the pleats. I'm gonna try and get better at it and make it work though, okay? So I just want you guys to know that that math is not quite right. So if you have a skirt or whatever, sleeve, whatever you're doing, right? And you want 1 inch, knife pleats, you need to figure out how far apart they are. Do you want them 1 inch apart, whatever it is. So let's say we want them, 1 inch apart across our skirt. You need to figure out how many you can fit in there. Take your seam allowance off. How many 1 inches can you get in there, and do they fit in perfectly? Because they probably won't. You have to take that into account. And then you add the pleat amount plus the times the number of pleats that you figured out you needed. So if it's a 1 inch pleat, that you need 2 inches of fabric for every 1 pleat, right? So there's 2 inches, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You do not need 3 times the fabric. So that is you will end up having this massive pleated thing and you don't know what to do with it. Okay, so can the fork slide after you fold it? I looked, Kathy, and I even looked at someone else's video too, because I thought they must be marked. And in some of hers, I could see like a little tiny like tick. Yeah, the fork is the measuring device. All right, we'll just get some more. I'm willing to be proved wrong. I've totally, you know me, I am totally willing to be proved wrong. All right, so we're gonna sew, and we'll do our first one. What did I say? Away from me lets the fork sit flat when I'm done. So we'll do it away, okay. Slide out the fork and sew. Now I'm ready to do my next one. Okay, where do I start? If I start here, look, I'm 1/4 of an inch away. Well, like 3/8. Here's where this pleat ends. I'm gonna show you. So you really do gotta get good at knowing where to do this. There we go, I got it. But it also like pushes down that edge. I think your fabric selection, and they were pinning theirs as well. Yeah. Someone asked that. I just don't think, like, you guys saw me sew that sagebrush dress. I didn't pin a single pleat. So if we wanted to, we could, if we measured, like we'll pretend like these are like actual measurements that we wanted. That might be the way to go, because then you would know, okay, I go in here. But, it slides around really easily, And then you could pin it and then sew it. You'd have to pin it for this to actually be enjoyable. I'm not convinced. The fork thing is a gimmick. I'm really glad someone on the Great British Sewing Bee did it this year. I'm wondering how it went and if it really actually looked, if it worked as good as it looked, I'm a skeptic on this one. There was a few different problems with that. I was like, okay, the math is not right, but that's fine, whatever. You can get past the math because you're going to figure that out pretty quickly. Your forks can be different widths, but for the most part, they're probably all about the same, right? I mean, depends on where you're at. Well, that one's quite a bit narrower. Maybe a narrower fork. Let's try a narrower fork. I mean, what do you guys think? How about I do this and I'll pin it. I'll pin it, okay? I'm trying to give this a fair shake. Okay, so away from me. I love how nice and flat that is. Like that does, like it's nice and flat, right? You really need these edges to be lined up, and you need your pleat to be perpendicular to this edge for them to hang right and just be really, really nice. Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly, Louise. I don't think this is necessarily faster, though. Like, why can't I just go like this? Yo. I can eyeball that way faster. I don't know. How do you get perfect pleats without a fork? What do you mean, Kate? We haven't always pleated with forks. I mean, I would, my pleats would be marked, you know, I would mark them, and then, yeah, I would pleat, you know, I would go mark to mark. And like I said, you really need all these edges to be really flush, because you don't want these to kind of get off a little bit. Like, you don't want this little fold right here to dip below your top edge or stick up, because what'll happen is your pleats, you know, like, you'll have 4 that are perfectly straight, parallel, and then the next one will be a little bit off kilter, you know? So, just in general, you iron them. You iron them first. So I'm not sure that this is really, this feels really fiddly. I know all of you just went to the kitchen to get a fork and prove me wrong, and that's great. Do it. You know, you could do a box pleat too, like she said. So let's see, I want to go like this. So now I have a box pleat, right? You could do an inverted pleat, right? There's an inverted. Oh, I'm a little off. Box pleat, inverted pleat. Just use your hands. Especially if they don't need to be accurate, you don't need the fork. Check out my sagebrush dress sewing. I pleated the heck out of that thing. And I didn't measure any of them. And I just did it on the fly, remember? I have a piece of it. I have the piece of the ruffle left. I did all these pleated ruffles on the yoke and on the hem all the way around. And I just did it by eye. So sorry, you guys. I don't think the fork thing is the way to go. Did I get all of these things? I'm so sad about the straw. I really wanted that to work. Someone sent me this video by a YouTube channel called Brilliant, and it's a really fun hand sewing to fix holes and things like that. Such eye candy. It's like a 5 or 6 minute video. I highly recommend it. It's in that playlist. And let's see. Oh, and then I included another one you guys sent, and she said, I started watching this one. This one seemed a little less useful, and it was a compilation of TikToks made by Downtown Tailoring. I include that one in there. I thought there were actually some interesting things in there. I may have done a couple of them today. I'm not sure. So yeah, that's it. That's it. What do you guys think? Are you guys gonna do any of these? What do you think? Do you guys have any tips that you want to share? This was really fun. I liked kind of doing, you know, seeing how these work. I learned a few. Oh, let's check the starch. Let's see how it's doing over there. Look at that. It did not curl. I don't feel it either. Yeah, check out that brilliant little sewing thing. I didn't check out the channel. I don't know what else they do. I don't know if sewing is their main thing. You going to do the binding? Nice, Kate. Nice. Yeah, of course. My pleasure. This was really fun. Yeah, totally, Elizabeth. She is very restful. Like, she's very good ASMR. I like on one of them. Oh, I think it was the, oh yeah, you know that pocket thing I showed you, how to take in your garment with a pocket in it? I've already lost the sample. I think maybe it's her daughter or someone says at the end, so how would you take in a pair? Oh no, oh, it was a crotch. Oh, I forgot. There was a really excellent tutorial on how to take in a crotch and fitting the front of some pants and the back. And someone says, so how would you fit a pair of pants that have this on them? And it was a zipper fly. And she was like, yeah, that's a lot more work. I like that she just admits it. She doesn't make everything sound really small, like easy. So, all right. Yeah, and she's the one where I learned the band roll thing. I really want to try. That stuff looks like so much fun. Yeah, right. So Terry, what did you think of the, I don't know why, but I specifically thought of you with this whole soda can binding thing. Just get an attachment. They're like $25, you guys. A binding attachment for the industrial, $35. $35, and it has like a different feed dogs. It might have a different feed dogs. I can't remember. You just replace the throat plate. I'm making it sound easy, but I'm just saying. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Seriously? I'm like trying to grab them. Ooh, I marked it as porn that time. It made you just buy the attachment. Well, there you go. No, I just timed out, Terry. Terry, no, I'm sorry, just a second. It's hard for me to grab. Oh my God. Sorry, Terry. I can't block. Why? I'm sorry, Terry. I can't. When they're going by, I have to grab these tiny little 3 dots, and it grabbed you because someone chatted, and it moved you up right under my cursor. No. Maybe I'll just make her a moderator. That's it. Terry, I'm going to make you a moderator. There we go. Maybe you can untime yourself out. I'm so sorry. My God, it's only for 300 seconds. Oh my God. That's like 5 minutes though. We got to stay live long enough so Terry can kind of chew me out a little bit. Oh my God. You're welcome, Lydia. No, I hope I didn't mark her that way. No, I don't think so. I marked the other people that way. Before it let me untime someone out, and I'm having trouble doing that. Yeah. I'll fix it. No, I just did it here. I just chipped away at it. I used I kind of used the closet core poof, but I just take the circles of it, you know, there's the back pattern piece that it looks like this, right? And then what I do is I just put it on the fold of the fabric here so that it becomes more of like an oval. That's how I do that. Like that. And then whatever this amount is that I've added, I add that. Well, I have a pattern piece where I took all of those sections, because that one has these sections like this, and those go around the perimeter of the poof. I made a pattern piece that is one long one of these, and so it's like one long perimeter. And so I take this amount that I added and I add it to that piece. So, and that's how I do the dog bed. And then I make one that's, I make an interior dog bed and I stuff that. That I just sewed shut. But on the exterior one, I make it zipper, and then I put that whole pillow inside the dog bed so I can wash the outer thing. Yeah, all right, what are the winners? Let's recap. Okay, starch on the rolled edge. That looks pretty good. I can't even feel it. I'm so sorry, Terry. I feel terrible. What have we got here? What about the foil crotch curve? Foil crotch curve. I mean, the straw was definitely a dud. The button jumper. We had the cone of thread that you put your pin with your bobbin on, so you can keep your bobbins with your cone of thread. We have the, you know, using a cone of thread on a regular machine and just using a push pin and paper clip on the wall, or a cone thread holder. Humper jumper. Needles in a recipe box. The straw, dud. Spray starch, and it's marking your hand for hand sewing your stitches. 2 writing utensils, parallel, taped, to make a parallel line. Yeah, we all learned how to make starch today. Thanks to you guys. That was great. Thanks to Nancy and a few others. We have the see-through pattern piece for matching plaids. Block fusing. This, your sewing teacher, she also mentioned using a roll of medical table paper for pattern paper, for tracing paper. Really affordable. And using colored chalk, like for marking things, and soap. She likes using soap as well. Continuous bias binding, or you can do it my way. And then that's pretty much everything. So, is Terry allowed to come back yet? My God. All right, so next week, how about I look up the Scirocco jumpsuit? Oh, I have it actually. Oy. Let me go get it and I'll show you what it looks like. Oof. Welcome back, Terry. Look at that nice shiny new wrench next to your name. Something you never asked for as well. It's like a double punishment. That's how you become a mod in my chat. I can think of no better person to be a mod here. All right, so I'm really sorry, Terry. Okay, so we're making, Hearts Fabric is a fabric store in California, and they believed in me when I went and said, hey, I don't know if you ever need projects sewn, but I can sew them for you, and you get to keep it. I'll send it back to you, and you can put it up in your shop. And they were like, we love that idea. They totally got it. They didn't think I was trying to get free stuff, because I'm not. And they now send us projects very regularly. This is the one they sent us for our anniversary week. And it's in knits, and I had no clue. And they sent this floral knit. That's going to be quite a jumpsuit. Let's look at the sizing. So the PDFs usually come in more sizes, but I haven't checked to see if this one does yet. You wear that wrench with pride. Now you have something to tell Ray when she's back. You have a story. You're like, wow, the gloves thing. This goes from a 31.5-inch bust to a 41-inch hip. No, that's not what it does. 31.5-inch bust to a 41-inch bust. 33 3/4 inch hip to a 43 1/4 inch hip. That seems kind of small. That is barely big enough to fit me. Let's check it out online right now. This jumpsuit looks really cute on everybody I see it on, you guys. I had no clue it was knit. That makes so much sense now. No wonder it looks so cute on people. Okay, so it does go up to size 52. And here it only goes to size 46 on the pattern. So it goes to a 45 5/8 inch bust and a 48 inch hip. In centimeters, this is an 80 centimeter bust to 116. The hip is 86 centimeter hip to 122. So yeah, this does look like a very well-reviewed pattern. You guys want to look at the hashtags real quick, and then we'll get going. Instagram. Oh, I need this. I'll show my screen in just a second. Oh, it's like D. There it is. That's a lot to look at, eh? Look how cute this is. Look at this floral one here. That's pretty, like, I would never have picked that fabric for this, and that looks amazing. Oh, look at this busier one here. That is pretty cool. That does not look like a knit. Oh, two different fabrics. Look, she put a little cut in her sleeve here. Saucy. Yeah, this is pretty cute. I like the shorts version. So how do you get this on and off? Solid contrast band. You can really see what's going on in this one. This is helpful. I'm liking these two-tone ones. This looks like two different garments, doesn't it? She has no comments. Wow, it's cute. All right. Bye, Malin. Oh, you got it. You did it. Oh my gosh, it's the best decision I've made. Wow. Night, Malin. Terry, you win. You absolutely win today. Oh my gosh, I am so happy that happened now. Good, you got him. Nice. The largest bust measurement is oh shoot, that's not it. Let me find it on, wasn't it? No, I'm not going to guess. That's not enough typing. Oh, there it is. It goes to a 45 5/8 inch bust. Oh, dar, I don't know about that. I've definitely seen tips in the bra making world. And right now it's bra August, so there's been a lot of tips in that. I've always had to sew them closed again. Oh, Terry, thank you so much for doing that. The timed out becomes the timer outer. Dang, you've been really busy today. Dang, you got a lot done. All right, so how do you get this on and off? I'm just kind of curious. Do you just pull this on? You just pull this on? Like you just step into it? Wow, okay, well I'm wow. Does that thing like flap open? Because I'm a little concerned. You do. You just pull this on. So you're naked in the bathroom. Okay. You love it? Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, I have been wanting mods. So, I mean, I like Kirby and I just made Kirby and Brooke mods without them even coming and asking. Good stretch and recovery, right? I know. This is very silky, not silky, but it's very soft. It's Robert Kaufman. I'll tell you more about this next week because they usually give me a little bit of a write-up on it. And just so you know, I have a discount code for Hearts Fabric. It's 10 so-so. But next week they gave you one that's a little bit more generous. So if you want to wait till next week. In fact, you know what? I should look it up because I feel like it starts on Sunday. If anyone wants that code, just message me or email me because I think it starts tomorrow. I have a feeling it starts tomorrow. I'll let you know what it is. I don't want to guess, and I can't look up my email on this computer, so sorry about that. Yeah, exactly. The bathroom thing with the jumpsuits. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, really, Dar? Yeah. And your clothes are sweeping dirt off the floor for you. Yes. Yeah, that is not comfortable, and those can pop open. Well, this will be interesting. That'll be interesting. Cool. Well, what a day. I got a mod. We hit 10,000 subscribers. Woot. So that's pretty exciting. Thank you guys. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. This was really fun. If you guys want to do this again, send me more videos. We'll do this again sometime. It was really fun. I'm very leery of Treffa crafts now. Imagine. Yeah, that's happened to me though. Well, you know, that was really popular in the 90s, those like onesie things. That would be the worst thing when you'd be walking around, you'd feel the snaps pop. You're going to be my mod from now on now, Terry. That sticks. All right, you guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you Wednesday. We're going to be cutting this out, and yeah, should be good times. All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it very much, and have a great weekend. Happy sewing. Bye, guys.